Welcome to you+you podcast. I am your host, Markia. Today's episode, we are going to go through the effects of numbing the pain. And let me explain what that means. So, when we experience trauma, our natural instinct is not to face the pain of it. Our natural instinct is to numb the pain so that we do not have to relive the experience of that particular trauma. And so in today's episode, I want to go through the effects of numbing the pain and how that will negatively impact you when you do so. So, numbing pain, whether through emotional detachment or substance abuse, it could be through sex or eating or whatever it may be. And so, just think about a traumatic experience that you have encountered. Have you faced that traumatic experience so that you can heal through it? Or did you do the opposite? Are you trying to detach from it emotionally? Are you maybe substance abuse, alcohol, marijuana, whatever it may be? Or is it through sex? Right? And so we've heard of coping mechanisms. And so oftentimes coping mechanisms, depending on how you're coping, can either be a positive or a negative. It could either be healthy or unhealthy. And I know that you, as I'm discussing this, as I'm sharing, I know that you are now in your mind like, wow, I'm probably trying to numb the pain of whatever this past traumatic experience was so I don't have to face it. And here's the thing, it may not necessarily be a substance abuse. So I experienced a tremendous amount of trauma growing up. Many of us have. But for me, I didn't go to alcohol or any type of drug. I didn't do that. The behavior that actually was shaped out of that traumatic or those traumatic experiences was I actually dealt with it through sex, right? That became really my outlet in working to handle, and this was an unconscious behavior that I had picked up, right? So it may not just be an emotional detachment when it relates to substance abuse or things like that. It could just be, honestly, a physical abuse that you do to yourself. Like, I've encountered people where they hit themselves. Children, adults, teenagers, maybe cut themselves, maybe bite themselves. They cause some type of pain in order to mask the seed of that particular pain, whatever that trauma was. Right? And so when you think about numbing the pain, it may seem effective, but that is only short term. The fact of the matter is, what happens is it's a long-term consequence, significant long-term consequence. And so I want to take a closer look of the effects of numbing any traumatic pain that you're trying to numb. Number one, it's only a short-term relief. When it relates to numbing the pain, if you are unwilling to face it and heal through it, you are only giving yourself a temporary escape. Getting high is only temporary. Emotional detachment from it, it is only temporary. Maybe you have a eating disorder where you are doing like it's an emotional eating. That is only temporary because guess what? When the high subsides, when you come back to reality, that pain still exists. So staying high does not take the pain away. It only masks it. That is it. Having a lot of sex does not take the pain away. It's only a temporary fix. When it relates to the short-term relief, guess what? You're trying to reduce suffering, but it's only in that particular moment. And yet, can numbing reduce the intensity of the emotional or physical suffering? The answer is yes, but it is only temporary. The emotional consequence of it, number 2, suppressed emotions. And I don't know if you realize this, but suppressed emotions will come up another way. It manifests itself in a different way. It could manifest itself through anger. It could manifest itself through depression. It can manifest itself through cancer, through a stroke, through a heart attack. There are many different ways that it will manifest itself. So when you suppress the emotional pain or trying to numb it, it will come up in a different manner. In my situation, it actually will come, it got to a point in my life where I could no longer hold it down. I became so angry and destructive that I could no longer suppress my emotions. They would come up in so many different forms. And honestly, I would tell myself, Marquia, you have to control your emotions. You have to control your emotions. Well, I wasn't able to control them because I hadn't dealt with the pain. So by numbing the pain, you also suppress your emotions, leading to a diminished ability to feel joy, love, and connection. Because again, that suppression of those emotions, they will come up in so many different ways. They manifest themselves in so many different ways. I talked about this emotional buildup where I could no longer hold it down, and that's another thing. Because unresolved emotions will accumulate over time, potentially leading to emotional outbursts or some type of mental health issue or some type of physical health issue. It will manifest in different ways. Number 3, it's going to mentally impact you. Your mental health will be impacted, right? So, avoidance and denial. Think about it. When you avoid something or deny its existence, it will remain there. You can't just shove your junk in the closet and think that it is no longer there. Sure, out of sight, out of mind, but not really. Because as soon as the door is opened, as soon as you're triggered, as soon as you have an emotional overload, as soon as stress hits in your life, as soon as you are uncomfortable, as soon as difficulty presents itself, guess what happens? All of that junk that you've put in the closet, that you've tried to avoid or deny or shut out or away, will start to fall all on top of you. It will be a snowball effect. So numbing the pain often involves avoiding the underlying issue. You cannot just put it away, drink it away, sex it away. You remember that song, right? Smoke it away, shop it away, eat it away, lie it away, meaning you're lying to yourself, mask it away, meaning you're wearing a mask to cover up. Because guess what happens? It prevents any type of healing or growth. And listen, in any area of your life, I want to, I, listen, I'm so passionate about this because I lived my life in a way where and it wasn't even that I was trying to not face it. I didn't even know how to face it. I had experienced so much trauma that I didn't even know where to begin to deal with it until one day I had no other choice to sit with myself. And it has been years worth of healing. I still sit with myself because what I began to do was I would pray and say, God, show me my heart. And man, listen, when I tell you that to see yourself is such a powerful thing, many people do not like to face themselves. They do not like to look in the mirror and see themselves. And I had gotten to a place in my life where I no longer wanted to move through life operating out of trauma. I no longer wanted to move through life operating out of hurt and pain. No longer did I want to move through life in that foolishness. So I had gotten to this place where I had to face myself. Because if you don't, it will affect you in so many areas of your life. When you avoid it, deny it, it prevents any type of healing and growth. Along with that is increased anxiety and depression. I stated that earlier. Long-term numbing can lead to increased anxiety and depression as the unresolved pain festers. It is an unhealed wound. You can't just put a Band-Aid over it expecting for it to heal, expecting for it to go away. You must face it. Number 4, there's a physical consequence, right? Here's a physical consequence. Substance dependency. And the substance abuse doesn't necessarily have to be, again, marijuana, alcoholism, or drugs. It can be any type of substance that you are using to numb the traumatic pain. Using substances to numb pain can lead to dependency and addiction, which has serious health risks. That could be overeating. That could be starving yourself. That can be shopping, overindulgent in any type of manner. Health deterioration. So chronic use of substance abuse, chronic use of eating, right? You're like, what? Chronic use of eating? Yes. Overeating, undereating, or any other numbing behavior. Think about it. There are multiple different types of behaviors that come out of numbing the pain. It can deteriorate your physical health and your overall well-being. Think about it. Think about your life right now. And what are you using? What have you tried to use in your life to numb your pain? Think about it. Whatever numbing behavior that may be. There are consequences to numbing the pain. Number 5, interpersonal effects. What does that even mean? Strained relationships. Emotional detachment can create barriers in relationships, leading to misunderstanding and a lack of intimacy. And not just sex. Any type of relationship, there is this sense of intimacy. mother and child, father and child, siblings, friendship. Intimacy is not just sexual. We'll get into that in another topic so that I can clearly break that down for you. But it can strain any type of relationship. When you are numbing the pain and you're not facing it, sometimes it's very difficult to see the negative effect that it has on you and you in a relationship with another human being. Isolation, because numbing the pain, that's another behavior, can lead to isolation as it becomes difficult to connect authentically with others. Think about it. If you are not showing up as your authentic whole self, you are not having authentic and healthy relationships with others because you're not having that with yourself. Number 6, long-term costs. What does that mean? Well, when you delay healing, when you numb the pain, you delay the healing process, which it's making it harder to address and resolve underlying issues. Which means areas of your life, they're affected, right? Maybe you're spending too much money. Maybe you're not being responsible in paying your bills. There's so many other ways. And just think about it. Think about where you are. Think about the long-term costs. I'll use myself as an example. I had always been responsible as far as spending money. However, I would hold my money so tight that I wouldn't even take certain risks because I was fearful and not having enough. The other issue is, as I worked through that, then I began to spend too much money because now I'm feeding a side of me that I had deprived for so long that I began to overspend. Now I'm coming to this beautiful balance, right? I'm coming to this beautiful balance. But it did affect me. Lost opportunities. Think about it. Suppressed emotions and avoidance can lead to missed opportunities for personal growth and meaningful experiences. I can relate to that on so many different facets because I had a difficult time trusting people. I had a difficult time trusting people. I was fearful of so many different things because of the past trauma that I missed out on great opportunities. I had left jobs because I overreacted, because I didn't know how to deal with my emotions. And so I missed out on great opportunities because of that. Alternatives to numbing the pain. Emotional processing. So allowing yourself to feel and process emotions can lead to healing and growth. You learn how to have healthy coping mechanisms. And actually, we'll create an episode around coping mechanisms. We're going to talk about that in another episode. But in this case, we're talking about healthy coping mechanisms where you are engaging in activities like exercise and creative expressions and therapy, counseling, prayer. There are many different ways to have healthy coping mechanisms that can provide you with healthy ways to manage the trauma and not just manage it. Because we don't necessarily want to manage the trauma. What we want to do is heal through it. That is important. But learning how to manage yourself as you face the trauma and heal, right? Because you want to allow yourself to heal. Mindfulness and meditation. I talk about this a lot in my episodes. Why? Because being mindful, self-awareness is important. Becoming one with yourself is important. That meditation, that prayer, that quiet time allows for that to happen. For you to sit with yourself. Because practicing mindfulness and meditation can help you stay present with your emotions and reduce the suffering. Will it eliminate it? Sometimes it does, honestly. But other times, it helps soothe the suffering. And that's what you want. You want to be able to maneuver successfully through the process. So in essence, while numbing pain might offer temporary relief, it comes at a cost of your emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. Embracing healthier coping mechanisms and facing pain head on can lead to deeper healing and a more fulfilling life. And here's the thing. Coping is something that is a help initially, but it is not a long-term answer. Ideally, you want to move past the coping stage, because again, that's early on, to a stage where you are fully aware of yourself, facing yourself, being honest and truthful about where you are. And yes, extending grace to yourself, loving yourself past the pain. But number one, you have to admit that there is pain. Admit that there's pain. And then begin to work through that. Acknowledging the behaviors, acknowledging where you are, acknowledging your experiences, and sit with yourself and love yourself through it. And if you're saying, Markia, I don't know how to love myself, well, I'll ask you this. Think about it from a place of parenting, even if you don't have children, but think about it that way. Or if you have pets and you love your pets, how would you love yourself if you were your parent? How would you love your pet if your pet was injured? That type of nurturing, the type of patience, the type of protection, the type of that safe space that you would provide. Think about it from that perspective. And then begin there. That little wounded child. And love that wounded child as you would if you were its parent, your parent. Start from that place. And I actually created an episode where I break down reparenting yourself. Because as adults, if there was some type of lack in your upbringing that your parents did not provide, love, protection, safety, guidance, whatever it may be, and there was some type of deficit or lack there, I actually talk about an episode in that episode where I go into parenting yourself, I had to reparent myself. I had to ask myself, how would little Markia, how would I have liked to be parented? And I sat with that until the answer came. And sometimes the answer will come instantaneously. But I had to reparent myself. And so you know what? I think that my next episode I'll talk about reparenting yourself so that you can help that child in you, that wounded little boy, wounded little girl in you to heal. Because I want you to remember that it is always you plus you. You are the common denominator in your life. You. Always and forever. Your best and most healthiest relationship should always be with yourself. That is the number one goal. So until my next episode where I go into reparenting yourself, I'm your host, Markia, and this is You+You podcast. Until next Thursday, remember that numbing the pain never really numbs the pain. It only masks it. And so it is time for you to embrace and face yourself. Until next week, blessings.